Today on the DML News podcast, Donald J. Trump is making America great again and driving the Democrats crazy in the process. It is amen, hallelujah here in America. We're going to talk about it today, give you the details you need to know. There's so much happening, and we're going to give it to you straight, and it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is my son, Denny, and on the controls is my son, Ryan. We come to you every single day here talking about making America great again, the Trump presidency, what he's doing, what he's not doing, what the Democrats are saying, and how it is they're crying. And it's one of the greatest pleasures of our day to come to you live on X, live on Team DML, live on Facebook, live on Rumble. And we want to thank everybody right now for hitting the share button. Make sure you hit the share button. If you're not on Team DML, hit the share button. And by all means, if you have a question for us or a comment that you think we should use here on the program, Denny is always looking on all those social media platforms and on Team DML. And we kind of give a preference to Team DML people. So anything you want to say or anything you want to ask me or the boys, feel free to do so. Before I get into my opening monologue, just want to say the 47 report is doing unbelievable. 47report.com. That is our new newsletter initiative. The open rate for news industry standard is 24%. We are 60% and up. Got as high as 68%. People are loving what it is that we're delivering. We're delivering the news first. We're giving you quality. We're giving you the stuff that you're not going to see on Fox News and Newsmax and the New York Times. We're giving you a lot of the stuff before it winds up coming out. So if you want a nice little thing every single morning, take you about 10 minutes to read through, you will be the smartest person in the room, and it will definitely help you when the Democrat friends that you somehow have aligned yourself with, whether they're neighbors, family members, people at work, whatever, when they come to you with BS, you will be the most informed person in the world, and maybe you can change them over to be a red hat instead of a blue. That said, we're going to talk about messaging. The most important thing in the world is messaging. Ask Jesus. That's why today you still read the Bible, right? Think about how long ago that all the material for the Bible was made. And the message was delivered in the right way. And that's why today we still talk about the Bible and the word of the Lord and everything else like that. When you've got a great message, when you control the narrative, you win the game. Not only in the short term, but in the long term. Keep that in mind. Donald J. Trump had a really good presidency his first go-round. But I'll be the first one to say that there were a lot of days when it felt chunky and it felt like it was going in the wrong direction. And he was so preoccupied with things of his own interest versus the national interest. And I get it, because at that time, he was highly egotistical. He was new to the whole thing, and he thought it was almost like an extension of The Apprentice. I remember one of the tweets he put out that made me literally want to rip my hair out of my head was when he was talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger and the ratings that he was getting on The Apprentice versus when Trump had it. It was ridiculous. It was unnecessary. It was unpresidential. People who were going to defend Trump no matter what would say, well, that's just Trump being Trump. Oh, ultimately, maybe you're right. But in the national interest, for the greater good, for people who were worried about paying their mortgage, they really didn't give a rat's ass about that. Especially coming off 8 years of Obama. I don't know what it is. Maturity, because we're always learning, we're always improving as we're getting older. Possibly the fact that he almost got shot and killed. Maybe because the presidency was stripped from him. I don't know what it is. But I will tell you right now, this guy is on the next level. And I remember back in the day when 2016 was around, people would say, Trump's playing 4D chess. I just roll my eyes. This time, I'd allow you to say it. This man is playing the Democrat Party and the world stage like a grand piano. If you think Frank Sinatra sang a good song or Liberace could knock out one on the piano like nobody else, Donald Trump is combining both of those things. It's fine music with a beautiful voice. He is cranking on every freaking cylinder. He is playing this so smart that the smartest of people can't keep up with his thinking. I mean, I'm telling you, I always pride myself on being able to figure out what's coming before it comes, and he's got me in a whirlwind right now. There was no better example of how he is controlling the message and has learned his lesson than the press conference that took place yesterday. Caroline Leavitt, I remember when she was chosen for the job, people were like, dude, she's only in her 20s. She's the youngest person that's ever going to have that job. People are like, get Vivek Ramaswamy and get Carrie Lake and get Megyn Kelly and get everybody who's coming up with these names. I had some people say, Dennis Michael Lynch. I'm like, no, that job ain't for me, because that job is brutal. You have to walk into that press conference room every single day and get pounded. And you may recall, God, don't I miss her, Raggedy Ann wannabe, right? The LGBTQ queen who came up every single day with a folder and a cheat sheet and just lied and lied and lied. And she lied knowing she was lying, but she was trying to protect the mad professor, Mr. Magoo, and all the crazy stuff he was doing. Leavitt walks in yesterday. There's no binder. There's no cheat sheet. There's just a really brilliant, fiery human being who says, we are going to make America great again. And if you in the liberal press want to come after me, you better have your seatbelt on, because I am going to freaking rattle your bones. What I watched yesterday was Trumpism at its best. She's carrying his message as if she was the female, younger version of Trump. She did it with style. She did it with strength. She did it with pride and backbone. And she did it with facts. And that's the beautiful part of it all. Now, to take this to the next level, I go back to controlling the narrative, writing the book, and making everybody have to read that book. Trump ain't dumb. He knows that when he looks back at his first presidency, one of the biggest challenges he had was having the American people know what was going on in his presidency. Because let's be honest, unless there's a war happening outside your door, unless the buildings are burning down from BLM, unless you're paying 5 times more for eggs than you used to, you really don't know what's going on in the country until it's too late. That's why you were taking little Johnny to school, and then you saw like 2 people who didn't speak English. And then by the next year, you went in and you're like, wait a second, why is 80% of the children not speaking English? How did this happen? Because they weren't reporting to you what it was that Barack Obama was doing, leaving the borders open and letting everything else happen. Donald Trump tried to come in and try to eliminate that, but nobody was reporting on it. It's called lying to you through omission. They don't give you the story, they don't give you the facts, and therefore you don't know everything that Trump is doing. I remember when I launched DML CBD, and people were like, how did you get into that? And I said, well, Trump passed the Farm Bill. What? What's the Farm Bill? Nobody knew about it. Nobody, to this day, you may be like, what? I use CBD. Yeah, well, you're using CBD because Donald Trump signed the law that allows you. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Exactly. Why didn't you know it? Because they didn't want people to know. So this time, Trump sits down with his team and says, look, there's a bunch of things we're going to do differently. And the biggest thing we're going to do differently is we're going to be able to get our message out, because the social media companies that wouldn't allow the Dennis Michael Lynches of the world to go out there and talk about things like deportations because that was hate speech, they've all come around. They've recognized the fact that that is stripping people's First Amendment right. They realize the fact that it's un-American, and they realize the fact that they were going to wind up getting their asses in the slinger if they didn't coalesce and didn't line up with Trump. And that's why you saw all the major heads of all the tech companies sitting at the inauguration. I know some people complained about that. There was one guy, I can't remember what his name was exactly, but he was on Twitter. He was complaining like, how the hell does Mark Zuckerberg have my seat? I did this for Trump. I did that for Trump. Listen to me. You don't think Trump knows that? Trump put those people in the front row so this way he can actually hold them accountable. And that's the beauty of Trump. He's thinking so far ahead. So I go back to Caroline. She sat up there yesterday. And I mean, it was like watching your favorite movie. I could watch it today again, and I could watch it tomorrow again. It's going to be so much fun because we're watching the Democrats and the mainstream media squirm. Not only can't they stop Trump, but now they're not even going to be able to report on them and own the narrative because people like me, people like all the other different folks that you like and maybe watch and follow online, we are now the news. You are now the news. We dictate the narrative. We are the power. There's too many of us for the Facebooks to stop us or the YouTubes to stop us. We'll go to Rumble. We'll go to X. And so this way, YouTube and Facebook looks at this and Instagram looks at this as, wait a second, we're going to, and now there's TikTok too. We're going to wind up dying. So they've jumped on board. So now we're all born again. Yeah. Is it shocking that yesterday I wound up getting information sent to my email from Facebook after 7 months of demonetizing me? I've had my lawyer threatened. I've had legal. All of a sudden, now I'm monetized again. How did that happen? The new wave of media is here to stay. And with the advent of AI, it is only going to get more powerful. I go back to the 47 report. There's a reason why we have an open rate of over 60%, and meanwhile, the New York Times is probably struggling at 24%. People want truth, and they're sharing the truth, and it is about to get even better than it already has been for the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. Yesterday, during her press conference, the beautiful Miss Levitt said that we're opening the doors to independent media and podcasters. In other words, you folks in the front row here, the mainstream media who have been given this front row, you're losing your seat. Let's play that video, Ryan, of what she had to say.
And in keeping with this revolutionary media approach that President Trump deployed during the campaign, the Trump White House will speak to all media outlets and personalities, not just the legacy media who are seated in this room. Because according to recent polling from Gallup, Americans' trust in mass media has fallen to a record low. Millions of Americans, especially young people, have turned from traditional television outlets and newspapers to consume their news from podcasts, blogs, social media, and other independent outlets. It's essential to our team that we share President Trump's message everywhere and adapt this White House to the new media landscape in 2025. To do this, I am excited to announce the following changes will be made to this historic James S. Brady briefing room, where Mr. Brady's legacy will endure. This White House believes strongly in the First Amendment, so it's why our team will work diligently to restore the press passes of the 440 journalists whose passes were wrongly revoked by the previous administration. We're also opening up this briefing room to new media voices who produce news-related content and whose outlet is not already represented by one of the seats in this room. We welcome independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators to apply for credentials to cover this White House. And you can apply now on our new website, whitehouse.gov/new media. Starting today, this seat in the front of the room, which is usually occupied by the press secretary's staff, will be called the new media seat. My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex. So in light of these announcements, our first questions for today's briefing will go to these new media members whose outlets, despite being some of the most viewed news websites in the country, have not been given seats in this room.
I think this is phenomenal. And therefore, I say to you once again, it is your responsibility to hit the share button. Because when you hit the share button, what you do is you help folks like me and you help folks that she's talking about get the message out. If you don't do that part, well, eventually the mainstream media will dominate again. So do your part. Now, that said, I go back to controlling the narrative and how important things are. For the longest time, you have watched the mainstream media on television, or you've read them online or in newspapers. They will refer to illegal aliens as undocumented immigrants, or the undocumented, or even the newcomers, or people in the country without authorization. They won't say illegal aliens, even though that is the legal word and term. It's not derogatory. It is the legal word and term. You will see that term used in documentation through the Supreme Court. You will see it throughout courts. You'll see illegal aliens is the term. Now, an illegal alien is somebody who crosses the border and breaks our immigration laws. But the mainstream media has tried to make this in a different kind of categorization style, meaning that if you kill somebody or come up with a rape or an egregious sort of crime, then you're an illegal. That's a criminal. If you're somebody who picks grapes and lettuce and works in the department store loading up shelves, you're just somebody who's the undocumented. This has to stop. This is why there has been such a softness in this country, because the narrative has been that these people are just here for a better life. I've made 4 films on this. I've interviewed those people who just wanted to have a better life, and they've told me straight out, time and again, I don't want to be an American. I don't want to be here. I'm using you as an ATM machine, and eventually I want to go back to my home country. I applaud them for the honesty, but at the end of the day, that message is never given out. That's why my movies never made it into the mainstream. That's why I had to do DVDs and go on Fox News in order to get them distributed. I couldn't get into the movie theaters. I couldn't get into the film festivals because they didn't want the truth to be told. Well, now the truth is told. And I make this example for you. Imagine if somebody breaks into your house today and murders somebody in your family. God forbid. The mainstream media will now see that person as an illegal alien. You will see that person as an illegal alien. But what if somebody breaks into your house today and steals your wallet, your identification, your television, the things in your refrigerator, and, I don't know, maybe some of the clothes that you have? Would you be like, oh, okay, you're an undocumented immigrant, so it's not that big of a deal? No, to you, that's an illegal alien. It's the same thing. Yes, one of the crimes is more egregious than the other one, but it's still somebody invaded your home and took your things, whether it was a life or whether it was a possession. They broke into your home. The second they opened that door and walked past the threshold, they were a criminal, and then the crimes just got bigger as they got worse. To the mainstream media, they're nothing. They just opened up your door because they wanted somewhere to stay. We have heard Biden, Obama, and all these other people who fall in line with them say the same stuff. They just want a better life. Meanwhile, if that illegal alien was to break into Obama's house today, you bet your ass he'd be calling ICE to have those people deported. Finally, Miss Levitt has to describe what this is that I just described to you, has to tell the media, your narrative is effing dead. Any person who breaks into this country is a criminal. I thought yesterday, I swear to God, I was going to get naked and jump in the pool and start doing cartwheels and whatever, because I was just so jubilant about what she was saying. I want you to hear it in case you haven't. Play it, Ryan.
Thank you, Caroline, on immigration. Of the 3,500 arrests ICE has made so far since President Trump came back into office, can you just tell us the numbers? How many have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally?
All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws and therefore they are criminals as far as this administration goes. I know the last administration didn't see it that way, so it's a big culture shift in our nation to view someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal, but that's exactly what they are.
You made a point that the worst first. They all have a criminal record.
And welcome to the break.
If they broke our nation's laws, yes, they are a criminal. Yes.
Thank you.
There you go. And what she went on to say, but that got clipped, is if you are a criminal, you are standing grounds for deportation. And that's where it needs to be, as I've talked on this show plenty of times. They've all got to go home. I don't care if they're white, brown, polka dotted. You all have to go home. You broke our laws. Get out of my house. It's that simple. I don't care if you go to church on Sunday. You could go to church on Sunday back in Honduras, or back in Europe, or back in South America, or back in the Middle East. Get out of here. And that is what is happening in this country. Another thing that you're going to wind up hearing is information that you never knew. Stuff that was not reported, not about Trump, but about their own Democrat Party. Did you have any idea about all the chickens that Biden manipulated? No, you didn't? Here you go. This was in the press conference yesterday as well. Ryan, play that clip.
Christian Day Talk.
Thanks, Caroline. Just real quick, you mentioned the inflation executive order the president signed, but egg prices have skyrocketed since President Trump took office. So what specifically is he doing to lower those costs for Americans?
Really glad you brought this up, because there is a lot of reporting out there that is putting the onus on this White House for the increased cost of eggs. I would like to point out to each and every one of you that in 2024, when Joe Biden was in the Oval Office, or upstairs in the residence sleeping, I'm not so sure, egg prices increased 65% in this country. We also have seen the cost of everything, not just eggs. Bacon, groceries, gasoline have increased because of the inflationary policies of the last administration. As far as the egg shortage, what's also contributing to that is that the Biden administration and the Department of Agriculture directed the mass killing of more than 100 million chickens, which has led to a lack of chicken supply in this country, therefore a lack of egg supply, which is leading to the shortage.
No, I don't know about you, but did you know about 100 million chickens being slaughtered? Did that one go over your head and you missed that one somewhere in the line of all the different information that's coming through? I bet you did. Now you're going to get the information. Now you're going to get the real narrative that needs to be out there. And that's why you have to always hit the share button. Share it, whether you're sharing the 47 report or you're sharing this podcast right now. Hit the damn share button, because people didn't know that. They're going to start blaming Trump. They're going to blame Trump for the price of eggs. Oh, I thought you said the price was going to go down. Well, hold on. We've got to replace 100 million chickens. Not an easy thing to do. But I think the best part, hands down, even better than the illegal alien part, was the whole condom to Gaza story. Now, you go to work, or maybe you're retired and your kids are going to work, and they're making their money, and they're paying their taxes, and they're saying, I can barely get ahead. Why are my taxes so high? I can make the argument that, well, you're paying for all the illegal aliens in this country. That's definitely boosting it up. Yeah, but what else? There's got to be other stuff. Why are we giving other countries, why are we giving them so much money? You'll hear, well, humanitarian need, military need. I got to tell you, I'm pretty in the know, but I had no idea about the condoms going to Gaza. Ryan, play the video.
Just during this pause, Doge and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. Doge and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. So that's what this pause is focused on, being good stewards of tax dollars.
The only downside to this woman, and it's really not a downside, it's just a personal downside, is that I'd love to see my handsome 29-year-old son ask her on a date. But you can't, because she's married, she's got a baby, and oh, by the way, she has the nice little cross around her neck, which I thought was just an extra nice little message to the mainstream media who has tried to strip God from everything, Dennis.
I think what's just so impressive about her, we went from bulky binders and not knowing what was going on, or even before that with Jen Psaki, remember circling back? Apparently, was she like, we'll circle back, like, the classic, like, what is she, an artist? Like, circle back, circle back. But I mean, if this is what the press briefings are going to look like going forward, I mean, fantastic. She's sharp. She's on her A game. She's obviously fantastic to look at. And you can just tell that she is going to be someone, and you've seen clips before of her. I think she was featured in the Art of the Surge documentary. Mm-hmm. She's very much involved with helping Trump write out his tweets and his Truth Social posts. So she's definitely a good Trump player. And I think going forward, the way that they're going to have these press briefings designed with new media coming in is going to be pretty fantastic.
Now, one of the things, and this is going to sound a little self-serving, but you know what? I deserve it. So my wife says, for years, I have outlined what would be the perfect strategy to end illegal immigration in this country. And of all the things I laid out, I'm not going to bore you with them right now, but most of them are all being done. One of the things that I said was imperative, was that we needed to go out into the streets, we needed to make arrests, film it, live stream it, put it everywhere, and watch these people get deported. I said it was an important element to everything, because it's one thing if Miss Levitt gets up there and gives you the story. It's the other thing if you read it on the DML News app or on the 47 Report newsletter. But it's a whole nother level when you get to see it. That's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing that sort of thing happen. Now, I will tell you, we can take it even to the next level, because I'm going to repeat what I said the other day. The criminals, the hard criminals, the ones who have raped and the ones who have killed, et cetera, so forth, the ones that are really bad, yes, we need to get rid of them. Yes, they are a detriment to society, but they are not what is costing you the amount of money like the day laborer is. All those families, all those young men, all those women who are giving birth all the time, you are paying out the yin-yang for those people. And what I want to see happen are these videos, and we're going to show you a couple of them right now. The videos that we see right now of rounding up these hardened criminals, I want to make it the next level, where this whole video thing that they got going just keeps on spreading out, and it metastasizes into its own channel on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Rumble, to where it's sort of the deportation channel, where just every single day there's live streams of a raid taking place at a company, where not only are the 50 people who are working at that company, or the 15 people, or even the 5 are getting locked up and deported, but I want the video of the guy who's been hiring these illegals. I want to see his Mercedes-Benz in the driveway be confiscated. I want to see him in cuffs, and I want that message to spread, because in the same way that people are starting to self-deport because of these videos, you will start to see businesses hire Americans again. The fact that Trump is doing this leads me to believe what I've already always known, is that the Trump team is always taking a look at what DML is having to say when it comes to this particular topic. And I always have my little birdies who tell me in my ear, this is what needs to happen, and on a much grander scale. We are going to take you right now to Kristi Noem, who is in charge of DHS, former South Dakota governor. She is now spearheading the roundups of these people, and she went out into the streets of New York, and we've got some video of that. In fact, we've got 2 videos. We'll play the first one, come back, and then do the second. Go ahead.
The Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, went along as federal agents conducted an overnight roundup in the Bronx, and CBS News went with them.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, says the search for immigrants in the country illegally led to 969 arrests today nationwide.
Major Garrett was in the Bronx.
Just after 3 a.m., we are making our way to downtown Manhattan to begin briefings on ICE actions to come this morning.
Inside the ICE field office in Manhattan, the ranks are enlarged by other agencies now ordered by the Trump administration to gear up for immigration sweeps.
There's also secondary actors.
The plan, multiple pre-dawn raids targeting undocumented immigrants with criminal records. The charges range from murder to theft to kidnapping.
We are going to take every precaution when we're trying to apprehend these folks.
Today, they are joined by newly confirmed Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem.
Be safe out there.
The goal, 500 arrests over a week-long operation in New York. In a Bronx parking lot, a final huddle.
Target today is Anderson Pacheco, Venezuelan national. He's wanted out of Colorado on multiple felony warrants.
A suspected gang member with warrants for kidnapping, burglary, and a gun crime, authorities told us. Around 5:30 a.m., heavily armed agents raid this apartment building and find the suspect and 3 other male associates. all handcuffed and without incident.
Also there in the residence, 3 children. Their immigration status unknown. And now a check to see if they have a caregiver or if Child Protective Services needs to be brought in.
You know, before we play the other one, Dennis, there's 2 things I want to point out and get your opinion on it too. I mean, did you hear the reporter? Immigrants in the country illegally. First of all, they're not immigrants. It's a disgusting thing to do to an immigrant. My best friends, I have 2 best friends here in Indian River County. They are both legal immigrants, one from South Africa and one from Canada. I love those guys. To think that they're going to wind up grouping those guys who are paying taxes, okay, in with the frickin' piece of crap that just got deported, you got to be kidding me.
I agree. I think the big litmus test or turn we maybe hopefully will see, because, you know, coming off of how we were talking about with Caroline here saying like, hey, we're going to give voices to alternative media. Like, you know, it's over for you guys. And this is a perfect example. And people will see more clips we have, but these CBS, NBC reporters have the privilege, in my opinion, to be able to go on these raids and actually see what all the work is about that ICE is doing, which big props to Kristi Noem for doing it. You know, Joy Reid was saying that she was dressing up like cosplay or something. It's not. I like seeing her do that rather than Mayorkas, who just like doesn't ever show up and, you know, shows up on NBC without ever being challenged about it. So when you have these videos showing, you know, that ICE is putting in the work, and then you got Kristi Noem there showing like, you know, she gives a damn. You know, it's great seeing that, but seeing CBS reporters using undocumented illegal, like it's illegal aliens. Like it's a culture shift here. We gotta use the correct terminology.
You're right. Let's play the second video. This one is coming out of Chicago.
The next stop, a residence less than 2 miles away. After some negotiation, the officers make their way inside, but come up empty.
The targets were not home. No arrests, no detentions.
Federal law enforcement is working with limited help from New York City police because of the city's laws protecting undocumented immigrants.
Some might say, isn't New York a sanctuary city? But you said the mayor's been cooperative?
The mayor's been fantastic. In fact, I talked to him on the phone probably 4 or 5 times last night. One of these individuals was so dangerous that we needed the backup of the NYPD to be there in case things went south.
Today's Bronx operation required around 36 law enforcement, yielding a handful of arrests.
Is that a ratio you're comfortable with?
It is, absolutely. I won't doubt what they need for support and backup. Are you aware you're in violation of our laws?
You want cameras at these events, don't you? And some would say you want this spectacle to be filmed.
It's not a spectacle. This is our nation's law enforcement judicial process. The scales of justice are equally applied to everybody. We want transparency on this.
Vice President J.D. Vance has suggested deporting 1 million people a year could be possible, roughly quadruple the number under President Biden last fiscal year.
Will you have the person power you need to carry out this initiative?
We're working on it.
It seems like you won't.
Well, we will have the personnel because we're going to continue to recruit and ask people to help us.
Major, as you mentioned in the piece, these are pictures the administration wants people to see. And they're not upset about that ratio you mentioned. So many forces for a little haul. Help people understand that.
They want to show a force. They want people to understand that there is a new tempo and range and scope to these immigration actions.
So I made a mistake. That's not from Chicago. That was the part 2 of New York. And the important part of that, Dennis, is see what they're saying? They're saying what I've been saying all along, and they're trying to push back on it. Oh, so you're filming this. You want everybody to see it. You bet your ass we want everybody to see it, because what that's going to do is it's also going to create a message around the world. Do not come to the United States. You're going to be sent home. And if you're here now, we want you to leave on a deportation effort, because A, it's the easiest way to go. B, is it's going to cost the United States nothing for that to happen.
It's like what she said, you know, it's not a spectacle for giggles. It's transparency to send a message. And, you know, I don't have this video simply because the person speaking it was speaking Spanish, but there is a clip of one of the recent deportees from Colombia, and she's interviewed and she's asked with her baby in her hand, what's your message here? And she said, do not go to America. And that's the mindset, right? Try to get as many raids as you can. And look, if you look at the breakdown, it's not easy. I mean, you got to get some people, you got to arrest them, you got to process them, you got to load them up on the planes. You can only fit so many, then the fuel to get them there. But my thing is, and you've said it before, there's going to be the problems with logistics. There's going to be the problems sometimes with the funding. There shouldn't be a problem with the manpower, because I think we have a different mindset here. It's all about the willpower. If the Trump administration has the willpower to say these people are going home, there's always a will, there's always a way. So
there is going to be a narrative developed through Miss Levitt and through Kristi Noem, who's great on camera, and through Tom Homan, who I think is awesome on camera. We got something of him last night too. The narrative is going to push so hard that eventually the left media is going to have to sort of get in line with that, or else they're really going to be disconnected, because we're going to start to know more about what these people have done. I'll give you.
I just want to say real quick, you're right, because in a way, I almost feel like a 2016 Trump, you would never get CBS or NBC agreeing to go on ICE raids. You know, they would say like, oh, they would be covering it in a different light. So I think you are starting to see that shift.
You nailed it, because if they were covering it, it would be covering it as, look at Trump, the hater of people.
Yeah.
Now they've got no choice but to cover it and saying we're getting the worst of the worst. I'll read you something that came out of the 47 report today, 47report.com. By the way, if you want to sign up for free for the newsletter. ICE scooped up a convicted murderer who was paroled by authorities in Massachusetts after serving only 17 years of a life sentence. Cesar Polanco, 59 years old, was paroled by the Massachusetts penal system because authorities claimed he showed remorse for murdering his wife in front of his then 5-year-old son. The Dominican national was released from MCI Norfolk Prison, but instead of walking free like he thought he would, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, was there to meet him and take him into custody for deportation, baby. That's the difference between make America great again or destroy the country through a fundamental transformation that Barack Obama wanted.
And I love how, whether it's Homan or anyone from the Trump administration, they keep confirming about how there will be collateral arrests, meaning they may go after the rapist, murderer illegal, but if they find out that he's got 5 friends who are also illegal that may have not commit that kind of crime yet, they're still getting deported.
We got another video out of Virginia. Play it.
As aggressive knocks at my door. I approached the door, but before opening it, I asked who it was. I heard in response that it was the police. I asked if they had a warrant. They indicated that they did.
He says when they gave him an Hispanic name he didn't recognize, he opened the door.
I fully expected to see Fairfax County police at the door. Instead, I saw a group of men. It was at least 4, but I think it was more, decked out in what I would describe as like tactical gear.
In the video provided to News 4 by another resident, you can see the word police and the acronym ERO, which stands for Enforcement and Removal Operations within ICE.
I told them that they should be ashamed of themselves, that they were breaking up families, and that, what my government was doing was embarrassing, and they're embarrassing our country.
Early morning door knocks more traumatic for another neighbor who spoke to our Telemundo 44 partner and asked we conceal her identity. They were knocking very hard on the door. They were trying to force it open. They kept trying to turn the handle and kept pushing hard against the door. She says the incident was so frightening to her 10-year-old that she was crying and asked not to go to school today. She's afraid that when she comes home from school, I'll be gone. Residents say they do not believe anyone was taken into custody. This resident telling our Juliana Valencia he's upset everyone was subjected to the pre-dawn door knocks.
And I asked them, hey, if you have a warrant, it's for a specific apartment. Are you knocking on everyone's door? I kind of reiterated some of the concerns. The individual who seemed to be in charge threatened to lock me up, asked me if I wanted to be locked up. That would be more accurate.
Across the country on Sunday, ICE officers arrested 956 people. That compared to about 300 a day back in September. More than 2,600 people have been picked up since President Trump's inauguration. The White House social media feed featuring post after post of people ICE has arrested. We asked ICE for more information and about why they came to this Beacon Hill building, who they were looking for, but we have not yet received a response.
So, Dennis, that guy, that liberal guy, I mean, you could see how liberalism, how I say all the time, it's a mental disorder, it's a disease of many, many different factors. I bet you that guy said to his neighbors, what happened to the J6ers was great. How it is that because a man stood on the grass on the lawn of outside of Congress, and that is a true story, a man who stood outside and was there filming was subject to being arrested, having his life destroyed, his businesses destroyed, everything. That's okay when they show up to tactical gear, when the FBI shows up tactical gear to this man's house for basically doing what he's allowed to do, his First Amendment right, which is to gather and to assemble. And now this guy is going to try to protect people who have broken laws tenfold over. And that guy doesn't cry until his daughter is beaten or his son is kidnapped or, God forbid, his wife is what. This is, I'm telling you, that guy right now, he's going to get numb because this is going to happen over and over and over again. It's going to become the norm. It's going to be the greatest thing that ever happened to this country, finally protecting our laws and our sovereignty.
You know what's funny too, or I say more pathetic? He's going to tell off the ICE and law enforcement officers, and yet he's the same guy that if he was in trouble, he'd be begging for their help. It's just comical, the hypocrisy. You'll get in liberal people like that.
Oh, big time. And now we're going to finally go to Chicago. But before we do, I got to give you, Denny, one of the comments here on Facebook. This comes from Carol Bonnier. She says, "Hey, I found you again. Your son is good looking, just like his dad. So happy to see you." Now, Carol, go to 47report.com, 47report.com, sign up for the newsletter, and you can never allow Facebook or anybody else to separate us ever again. 47report.com. And now here we go to Chicago news. Go ahead.
Tonight, President Trump's promised crackdown on illegal immigration is underway. We get a first-hand look in Chicago, riding along with ICE agents at dawn.
We are putting more resources towards enforcement now.
The first stop, an apartment complex. No one answered the door. They're not allowed to go inside, so we're moving on. It can take a team of federal officers hours to make one arrest.
I think on this team we're close to 10.
Close to 10. Yep. Just going after one suspect. That's a lot of manpower.
It is.
We're now heading to the northwest part of the city. Yesterday, they couldn't find one particular 25-year-old from Mexico with a lengthy criminal history. But this morning, a surveillance team has just seen him at work. When we arrive at a tire shop, 25-year-old Christopher Lara is arrested outside. ICE says he has a criminal record, including home invasion and aggravated battery. Agents lead him away in handcuffs. A resident here telling us he supports President Trump's deportations.
I don't mind an immigrant, but if they're breaking our laws, they don't need to be here.
A senior administration official tells NBC News ICE arrested nearly 1,200 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, some wanted for assault and armed robbery, but adding only about half had prior criminal records, in addition to being in the country illegally. Do you expect collateral arrests in these operations?
Yeah, I definitely expect it to happen. I mean, we have the laws on the books and our officers are out there.
Overnight, the president's mass deportation plan leading to a showdown with Colombia, after that country's president abruptly turned away 2 U.S. military aircraft with deportees, saying a migrant is not a criminal and should be treated with the dignity a human being deserves. Trump quickly threatening the country with a 25% tariff on all Colombian goods. The country's president backed down, according to the White House, agreeing to all of President Trump's terms, including the unrestricted acceptance of migrants. Back near Chicago, this woman is devastated because her father was arrested this morning. It breaks my heart, she says. And at an ICE processing center, there's Christopher Lara, the man we saw arrested earlier. He denies the charges against him.
I went to school my whole life here, from preschool all the way to my senior year.
Facing possible deportation to Mexico, he also says he'd leave behind a 5-year-old daughter.
He does have serious charges and convictions. So I understand he has a daughter, and that's unfortunate, but we still have a job to do, and we still have to follow the law.
I mean, for some major takeaways there, one of the things that ICE and a lot of these agents have to deal with too is that if they are in a city like Chicago and their sanctuary laws, that they're contending with, it definitely inhibits operations. But I love at the end there how the one officer was saying, like, yeah, this guy's a criminal and he may have a daughter, but, unfortunate. If you're an American citizen and you commit murder, but you have kids, you're still going to prison. We can't have the tier works happen because the parent commit a crime, and then obviously the consequence is that you are subject to not being with your kid because you're going to be going to pay for your crime. Like, I don't know where the logic gets lost in that.
Remember, the narrative from the mainstream media has been selling people into believing a certain thing. And now that we're controlling the narrative and Trump is controlling the narrative, that is all about to change in a very significant way. Now, I want to give you an example of something. These clips that we're playing, the other reason why they're there, see how long they are? They last 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever. It's amazing how the mainstream media is giving visualization to this because they think in their demented mind that this is going to turn people off to the Trump administration. The more they show this, that people are going to be like, oh my God, look at us, we're a police state. It's going to be just the opposite. But I want to remind you of something that we posted on X, and for those of you on Facebook not following us on X, it's x.com/trustdml. ABC, CBS, and NBC spent over 46 minutes covering Trump January 6 pardons, but only 3 minutes on Biden pardoning his entire family. You see how this is working and how it always has worked? They're going to give a ton of time to this because they think that Americans who are watching those stations are going to look at this and be outraged. When meanwhile, they're going to want more of that stuff. So that's why they're putting it. It's on good TV. We've got some nut now. This crazy lady who's screaming at ICE.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, so again, I got a feel for these ICE officers, but besides sanctuary states, then you get the actual loonies who are going to start defending the illegal alien over, the American officer who's trying to protect them.
Let's play the clip.
No firme nada ni diga nada. No tienen culpa para pararle. That's fucking. You should be ashamed of yourselves. You guys probably have family from Mexico. You guys should be ashamed. You guys look fucking nopal as fuck. How dare you guys? You guys are sad. Damn, this shit's sad. It's making me cry because I can't believe this shit's happening in my own fucking neighborhood. That's fucked up. She's heading to work and they're taking her, and she has family over here. That's fucking scandalous, bro. I can't believe this shit's really happening. That's sad. You guys are scandalous. Fuck, man. What is she doing? Heading to work? What is she bothering you guys? Is she doing something dangerous? How about you guys go get the fucking prostitution off the street on hold? I've been here fucking 39 years of my life and I've never seen this shit. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. May God have mercy on all your souls and your family souls. Because karma's a bitch. Karma's a bitch, and you look nopal as fuck. You should be ashamed. Undercover cops, look at stopping people and taking them, asking them where they're from, what part of Mexico. Look at fucking bastards. They don't have license plates, you guys. So if you guys see undercover cops with no plates, they're fucking pulling over Mexicans.
Can you believe her? What is wrong with these people? Just she's going to say, I've been there for 39 years. Well, then you should know that your neighbors are illegal.
Yeah. And maybe we'll deport your ass next. This is what's going to happen. You better get normalized to it because this is what it is. We're going to enforce the laws. You see what she says? I can't believe this SHIT, this crap is happening. I can't believe this crap is happening. What can't you believe? That America is actually going to defend itself and that it's going to enforce its laws? Wake up, girlfriend, because there's a new sheriff in town and the freaking guys are coming to you next and you're going home.
I think it's just a clear sign of just how lax the Biden administration was with any type of enforcement. I mean, they were pretty much like anti-enforcement.
It wasn't just Biden, Denny. It was Biden. It was Obama. It was George Bush. It was all the Reagan gave him amnesty. I love Reagan, but you know what? He crippled this country when he did what he did. Now I want to bring in who I think is the superhero, who's not getting enough credit, who needs to get more credit because this guy is.
He's got the best clips.
This guy's the Terminator. This is Tom Homan last night on Fox News. Play it.
Listen to this. New York City joined the list of cities where these performative raids are taking place. We have a government right now that is reckless. Reckless and also, as I've said, performative. I want to show you an image of Kristi Noem, who was just confirmed, the former governor who was confirmed as Department of Homeland Security. It's as she's cosplaying. It's almost a game where she seems to be cosplaying, because I'm not sure what she thinks that she's portraying here. She might as well be at Comic-Con.
James and Joy say you're reckless and you're just role-playing for fun.
She's dumber than a box of rocks. Bottom line is, let's talk about Chicago for a minute. Chicago mayor says that we put fear in the elementary schools because ICE agents went to elementary school. Total false story. What ICE did in Chicago It saved children. What we did in New York today is saved children. Just Chicago alone, we arrested like 9 sexual predators, most of them child sex predators. We took them off the street. We took them off the street in New York today. We're protecting the community. We're saving children. We're going to secure that border so less Americans die of fentanyl deaths. We're securing the border so less women and children are sex trafficked. Biden administration had a 600% increase in sex trafficking. We're securing the border so less terrorists and people on the terrorist watch lists get into the country. Under Biden, we had a 3,500% increase in people on the terrorist watch list. No, we're saving this nation. We're making America safe again. So they need to get out of the way because we're coming. We're going to do it. They're not going to stop us.
Yeah, I mean, look, we got 10 minutes left. We want to talk about Trump doing some other stuff other than immigration, so we'll get that to now. Let me just say this in a closing here. Get ready, because the number one problem in this country was for the longest time was illegal immigration. It hurts you in the wallet. It hurts you in society. It hurts you in your safety. And make no mistake, there will be attacks on this country. There will be more terror attacks on this country, and it will be tied back to what took place at the border. Because with all that's happening right now, that makes a criminal, that makes a terrorist work even harder and even faster. So hopefully we can get in front of it. That's what my prayer is. But make no mistake, what's happening right now is fair, and it's justice being served. Make no mistake about it. In fact, there's a message here on Facebook from Deanne Lederer. She says, Freeport schools on Long Island said they would protect all of their students. If they are illegally here, they are breaking the laws. Listen, do I feel bad for a child who was brought here to the United States by admission of their parents? Of course. But you know what? They're going back home. That's it. My child should not have to pay for another child's parents' crimes. And that's that. And funny, Freeport is not far from where I grew up. Freeport has a lot of problems, and they should stop worrying about protecting illegal aliens and start worrying about getting the crime down. Freeport is one of those places where you would say to your mom or your sister or even to your brother, don't drive through Freeport. So you know what? Believe me when I tell you, the best thing that can happen to the people of Freeport is that these people are deported. Deanna also said, I'm glad to see you are back and haven't left Facebook. It may not be great, but it's user-friendly for me, and I love being able to interact with others and listening and watching. Miss Lederer, let me tell you something. The best thing you could do is go to 47report.com. So this way you get me every single day, and this way you'll be able to get alerts and everything else when we are going live. Because trust me when I tell you, although we're back on here, the gods that rule this place still aren't playing a fair game. We got 200 people on a live feed. DML podcast always used to get anywhere between 5,000 and 20,000. So let's see how that goes. Dennis, with that being said, moving on to something else, Trump wants to get rid of the deadbeats in Washington, D.C., the bureaucrats and all the other people who just sit there and collect on the teat of America and the taxpayer. What do we got about what he just offered in a buyout?
It's incredible, actually. I mean, this is not very heard of. He offered a buyout to all 2 million federal workers, basically saying that, hey, we need everyone to return to office. Because I think a big thing with Trump's presidency, his overall theme is get it done. Like Kristi Noem being on the ground there. So he is basically telling all these workers, you're returning to office, and if you don't want to, we'll offer you a buyout. In fact, I think it was like an 8-month severance payout. They have until February 6th to confirm if they're going to return. And they note that even if you confirm that you're returning, we still may not have your job because they want the best of the best. They're eliminating all the DEI apartments. And just to end that, it's expected by this proposal, he's calling it the fork in the road. That's what the email subject line said to these workers. 5 to 10% of the federal workforce is expected to quit. If that happens, this could lead to $100 billion in savings.
You know, I look at it this way. I'm a big guy when it comes to plants, right? So upstairs on my balcony where I do my meditating and my praying every single day, I have a lot of plants. And periodically, I have to go to that plant, even though it's beautiful and I like the way it looks. I realize it's not growing and it's not working at its highest capacity because there are dead leaves and there are things that need to be cleaned out, weeds. And I go in every couple of months and I go and I clean that stuff out. It doesn't mean I'm killing the plant. It doesn't mean I'm being mean to the plant. I'm just taking off the stuff that no longer needs to be there. And therefore, that plant is going to be able to even grow bigger and better than it already was. That's what Trump's doing. What they're trying to make it sound on the left is he's telling you he doesn't want these people. He wants to get rid of these people because they're Democrats and they voted for Biden. That is not the case. If you are holding a job and you're getting benefits and everything else, and you're not doing your job, you're basically just showing up because Biden and Obama wanted to grow this massive government. It's time for you to go on your way. We'll give you some months. We're going to give you some severance. We're not throwing you out into the cold. You're going to get a lot for 8 months, but go get yourself a new job, pick yourself up, and start doing something for another private company that's going to look at you and say, what are my results today from you? Because the government's just sitting back and just being la-di-da-di-da-di. And we're not doing that anymore. I want to have efficiency, and that's why we have Doge.
Look, we always use the analogies, but it's true. If you got a big house and for years and years and years, it hasn't been cleaned up or properly maintained, and then you got Trump, the gardener, and the housekeeper coming in, and he said, hey, maybe a little disruptive at first, but we're cleaning up this house. This is what's kind of happening.
You just reminded me of something. In one of Trump's books, I don't know if it was The Art of the Deal or one of his books, in one of his books, he said, I don't have any respect for the person who goes to sell their car and does not wash it before somebody comes to see it.
Right.
You will get more money if you clean up your car. This is what he's talking about. We're just going to, we're shaking the plant to get rid of the dead leaves, and then it's going to all be
do you know
good.
what the percentage is currently, or at least when it was under Biden, of how many federal workers were actually in office?
How many?
6%. That's 6% of all federal workers were like on a day-to-day basis in an office.
And you know what they're doing at home? Nothing.
No.
So Trump also yesterday caused major headlines all over the place. I bet you every single last podcast other than ours led today with this. I thought the immigration thing was more up my ballywick, but Trump called yesterday for fundings, basically to stop funding of certain governmental programs. And the left took it as, oh my God, the senior citizens aren't going to get their Social Security check. You're not going to be able to use your Medicare, your Medicaid. It's not the case. But that's how they're selling it. What do we know about that, Dennis?
It was all directed towards, it even says foreign aid, non-governmental organizations, which is huge, DEI, woke gender ideology, and the Green New Deal. So it was all the things that are those fluff, gross programs that Trump wants nothing to do with. He was not cutting off access for people to get to their Social Security or Medicare or anything of that nature. The outcry on it was ridiculous. Now, he did get a bit of a blockade from a judge who I think put a freeze on his order.
Put a freeze on the order until Monday, so this way there could be greater analysis of it.
Yeah.
But for anybody who is being told, your family and your relatives are telling you that the United States is just leaving people to die, let me just give you something that was in our 47 report today. So this way you can see that it's absolute BS. U.S.-funded aid programs around the world were firing staff and shutting down or preparing to stop operations as the Trump administration's freeze on almost all foreign assistance brought their work to a sudden halt. However, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who initially exempted only emergency food programs and military aid to Israel and Egypt from the aid pause, agreed Tuesday to at least temporarily keep spending money on humanitarian programs that provide life-saving medicine, medical services, food, shelter, and subsistence assistance, according to a copy of a signed waiver obtained by the Associated Press. So even though I don't agree with that, because I'd like to see that money going towards our own homeless and people in the United States who need it, don't tell me we don't have a heart. We're trying to figure out how it is that we can save the taxpayers of this country money so this way we can all live the American dream. Because when everybody is on the path to the American dream in the United States and we know we've got it going good, then we could open up our hearts and our hands to those around the world. But we have to take care of our home. It is called America First. With that being said, Dennis, tell us about RFK. He wants to make America healthy again. And of course, he's going to get a lot of pushback.
I think we're about to maybe start hitting the first set of issues with some of Trump's nominees. I mean, Pete Hegseth was pretty close, but he got confirmed. But today, in fact, probably currently right now, RFK is in his first hearing. I think it was the Senate Finance Committee. And then tomorrow he actually goes before a committee that's focused on health. So he's got two back-to-back committees, but there are quite a bit of Republicans who are pushing against him. Lindsey Graham, no surprise there.
Oh, he's an idiot.
But some other worries are Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. I don't understand how they're allowed to be classified as Republicans. Mitch McConnell is also a bit of a concern, too. He has not been very empathetic to any of Trump's choices, truthfully. So it's the classic people you would guess on the Republican side who are going to have issues with Trump's pick.
So let me tell you what's going to happen here. Let me give you the future, so this way you know. If it was a stock, I would tell you to buy it. If Lindsey Graham opens up his mouth one more time negatively about RFK Jr., Donald Trump is going to shred that man alive publicly, and suddenly you're going to see Lindsey Graham get into the right mindset. That guy is forever a weasel. I don't know what the folks of South Carolina are thinking with voting for this guy anymore. We can't come up with somebody better than Lindsey Graham. I mean, my God, he goes back all the way to 2013. He was amnesty boy. He was part of the field of four Republicans, Marco Rubio being one of them, who wanted to give amnesty. Get rid of this guy, and Trump has to annihilate him verbally if he keeps on giving shit to RFK Jr. You just can't do it. RFK Jr. wants to make America healthy again. Our country is so despicable when it comes to what we're eating and how we look. We all need to get ourselves back into shape, back eating right, eat God's food, not this processed crap through bags and boxes. He's trying to make it so this way we can live a longer life. What is worth watching this podcast or complaining about anything if you're not going to wind up being healthy and live a long life? That's what matters most. And that's what he's trying to say. And anybody who doesn't want him in there is either an absolute idiot Democrat or, Dennis, my last word here, bought and paid for by the drug companies and the food companies.
And I guess, unfortunately, someone or someones who fit that category are his extended family. Because look, there's some things RFK.
Well, they're Democrats.
Yeah, but there's some things RFK touts that I'm not a fan of, but the good stuff I love. Like, hey, let's get our food clean. I just feel bad for him because outside his immediate family, all his extended, his relatives from the whole Kennedy side, not only are they just like, oh, we don't agree with him, they like demean him.
I know
they just had
Caroline Kennedy.
Yeah, just ripping into him.
Called him like a monster. And
Yes,
he's
and I'm like,
unbelievable.
to talk about family drama. I mean, I can only imagine the Kennedy Thanksgiving household.
Look, let me connect the dots here. More important than the family or anything else like that. Let's connect the dots here for 1 second on why it is that Republicans will push back against this man. Okay, if you stop eating the Doritos and you stop eating the hot dogs and the cheese on your hamburger with the full of sugar bun, what's going to wind up happening is that you're going to start losing weight if you don't eat that anymore. And if you start losing weight, well, then the drug companies are screwed because you don't need Ozempic anymore, right? If you stop eating all that garbage, you're not going to have to be in diabetes medicines anymore. They're going to all lose a ton of money. So if what winds up happening is that America goes healthy, you see the drug companies go batshit crazy. And I'm sorry for the profanity, but I got to deliver it home. RFK Jr., not perfect at all by any stretch of the imagination, but then again, neither is Donald Trump, neither is Dennis Michael Lynch or anybody else. There's only one guy who ever walked on water, and he wasn't overweight. So what I'm telling you right now is that RFK Jr. is a blessing for this country when it comes to things about vaccines and when it comes to being healthy and having these food companies stop poisoning you, your babies, your grandchildren. I am telling you, this is, I think, the most important appointment that he has in the mix.
And you know what? And you know what he's going to greatly support too, because Trump, we had in the 47 report, but he signed an executive order on it, banning surgical mutilation of children for transgender purposes, which, he said it perfectly in his Truth Social statement that this is going to be a dark stain on the nation's history. Because I always think, like, what are the history books going to look like in the future? And they'll look at maybe the illegal immigration issue, and hopefully if it gets fixed, they'll analyze, like, okay, maybe this is why some are for it, against it. But I think when they get to the transgender part, especially the massive wave that we had in the last 5 years, I think it's just going to perplex people saying, why did we do this to kids? Make them sterile, make them go on hormone blockers. I mean, we used to watch those videos where doctors would justify it, and you're like, how did this person get a degree to say, like, yeah, let's go take your 12-year-old son and make him into a daughter?
You nailed it on the head. Listen, there's a lot of things that we could have covered today that we didn't get to cover today because we thought that it would be very important to show you all those clips. We usually don't play that many clips, but they were great because they showed what's happening in the country. If you go to the 47report.com, 47report.com, there is no the, 47report.com, sign up for free for our newsletter, you would have gotten tenfold the information of what we gave you in an hour. You would have gotten it in a 10-minute read. We are covering everything that the Trump administration is doing. Let me give you an example of something we didn't post today, but I want to show you. Maybe Ryan can bring it up on the camera here. There's a chart that Trump put to Truth Social. In Biden's last 19 days at the border, there were 2,087 average apprehensions. For the first 7 days of Trump's presidency, the average is 148. Look at that chart. You don't want that chart if that's a stock because it goes down, but that's the chart you want if you're the United States of America and you want the illegal immigration in this country to stop. It goes as high as up here, and then it literally drops off the freaking table. That is making America great again. So go to 47report.com, sign up for our newsletter, and that's that. For those of you who are Team DML, look forward to a message that only you get on the weekend, Team DML members. Next week, we're starting a whole new Zoom meeting on teamdml.com for our members who pay for a membership. We're going to be Zooming with you. It's our whole new next sort of thing for Team DML members. And for those of you who are DML CBD customers, strap in and get ready because, like you know it, we don't do the BOGOs all the time like we used to. Until Trump gets the economy back, we have to do it scheduled. The next schedule is February 1 to February 10 days of a BOGO, and then it ends. So get ready for that. That's coming up. Until tomorrow, God willing, on behalf of Ryan and on behalf of Dennis, we wish all of you the greatest day today. May God bless you, your family, these United States, and President Donald J. Trump.
And today's Team DML blessing goes out to Marie Gardner.
Marie, sounds good. You better be on the 47report.com, Marie. We'll talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.